what's the idea of herd immunity? What are the ethics of it?
So, herd immunity is basically the idea that once a sufficient number of individuals in the population have contracted the disease or, have immunity to the disease, then, say if you're sick and you walk into a room and you sneeze, and 9 out of the 10 people in the room are already immune, the likelihood of you passing that disease on is fairly low. If you walk into the room and sneeze and nobody's had the disease, then the likelihood of that disease getting passed on is high. And I think that's where a lot of the panic, came, at the beginning of all of this, because it was said that this was a novel coronavirus. So since it was novel, it was brand new, there was sort of this assumption on everybody's part that it's that room full of people, nobody has any immune competence to this at all. But there's been researchers and doctors who've come out and said, actually, I think the herd immunity for this thing is already at 50% ish in the population before we were even exposed. Well, how is that? Well, there are other viruses in the same family that routinely infect human beings. There are 4 of them, and they cause common cold or flu-like symptoms. And you've probably potentially had one of them. And if you've had one of them, then you might possibly have some cross-reactivity to the one that's currently in circulation, because your immune system is actually smart enough to be able to do that. And so some people kind of want to argue that vaccination is good because you do get some cross-reactivity with vaccines as well. But you also have the problem sometimes of when you vaccinate for one thing, your immune system can actually, it's called original antigenic sin, which is just kind of
really wow.
Yeah. Yeah, the scientists aren't completely illiterate about matters of faith. But if you are exposed to one particular strain, say of the flu, and your the strain of the flu that you encounter the next year is sort of similar to that, but not similar enough that your immune system can actually mount an effective response to it. Your immune system will mount a memory response because that it's similar enough that it triggers it, but it's not similar enough that it can take it out. Okay. So you'll actually have worse flu than if you hadn't had the original flu. So it's like if it's different enough, you'll mount a brand new immune response. If it's similar enough, you'll neutralize it. If it's kind of over here in halfway between, you might start a memory response, but your memory response is going off this way and the bad guy's over here. So you can improperly prime your immune system too with vaccines, and actually the flu vaccine is kind of a huge culprit for that. And there's some concern that the current virus may be kind of a culprit for that as well. So that, of course, remains to be seen, because there's not been a whole lot of safety testing done, and they've been quietly destroying the placebo group by vaccinating them. So we don't really know what the long-term effects of this are going to be, or how we're going to compare them. I guess they could compare them to us, right? Because we haven't been vaccinated.
Yeah, there you go.